Hello, Harriette. Thank you so much for joining in. And it's a total pleasure to have you with us for this interview on Agtalks by AgriERP. So, Harriette, I think first, the starting point that I think we can start off with is you giving us an introduction about yourself, about what you do at Soil Information. Yeah, I think that can be a good starting point.
Sounds great. Yeah, nice to meet everyone. And I grew up in the US in farmland, in Pennsylvania specifically. And so I would say the relationship between the land and farming is deep in my blood. I've always wanted to be a part of the food system and the health and a healthy environment, specifically for the farmer. So that's really been my focus is how do we assist the farming industry in the US, but also globally. And I was specifically in the relationship and education for a long time, but then primarily switched into with the growing issues in the farming industry as a result of climate, as a result of investment, and as a result of development and everything else we know of. I really wanted to become a stronger leader in this industry. I was primarily working within food systems when I met the soil information team, the founders, I should say specifically, and they asked me if I would join the team. I was actually the first and only employee for a long time, apart from the scientists who are really the leaders, the founders and the scientists really running soil information. They really are the backbone of the organization. But a reason I joined Soil Information when I was asked was because I felt that they had a missing piece to the answers we need, the solutions we needed in the farming industry, in the agriculture industry. And what I specifically mean by that is the agricultural industry has been struggling with a large investment in inputs into the soil and the growing climate risks and so forth. All these things are coming down on the farming industry and the farmers specifically. So how do we assist the farmers in healthy soil analysis of soil? And right now you can take core soil samples and there's a lot of modeling going on in satellite work. I won't go into all the different ways to measure the health of the soil. There's many, and there's many people involved in this. And everybody plays a role. I'm not saying that soil information is the only one. There's everybody plays a role in helping and assisting this industry. Specifically, though, my founders were working in a new technology. And what I mean by new, it's electrochemical energy. It's been around for a long time, that technology. However, it was electrochemical energy needed large amounts of water or moisture in order to get accurate readings. But my founder had was on a webinar and heard a scientist in Dallas. She's at the University of Texas, Dallas. She works primarily in the medical field. So she's been developing low moisture sensors for the human body to get accurate readings on all these elements of the human body, including glucose and cortisol, with very low moisture sensors. So no need to take blood or urine or anything else in order to get these accurate readings. A light bulb went off with my founder saying, oh my gosh, if we can utilize this technology in the soil, we can get accurate readings in very dry soil as well as soil with lots of moisture. And so they then raised some money and developed this company. And I joined right at the beginning. So I've been a part of the process of the development. And so we weren't even sure if it was going to work when we first developed this product. We've applied this technology to the soil. We started out in all parts of Texas. Texas has a large differentiation in their soil, so it was a good place to start. There's a lot of dry soil and sandy loam, all different types of soil types in Texas. We also did a stress test in Costa Rica in highly volcanic soil because we felt if it worked there, it will work most anywhere. We have had beyond our expectations results. We can now get in real time soil health measurements. And what I mean by that, all the metrics, the traditional metrics, and I'm including the full nitrogen cycle, so nitrate and ammonium, the full carbon cycle. We can also measure inorganic carbon as well as organic carbon, which most people cannot get accurate readings of inorganic carbon. That's been a huge issue. And without both elements, the soil organic carbon and the soil inorganic carbon, you cannot get an accurate reading of carbon in the soil. And as we go into this emphasis on carbon and soil, it's really important to have both of those measurements. We also measure water retention capacity, pH, bulk density, so we can get carbons per hectare. So we measure all the different elements, and we can actually see the soil health moving in real time in the soil. These probes go into the soil and they are reading the soil. It's much like putting a Fitbit in the earth. You can actually see in real time what's going on in the soil, in the living soil. Fast forward, we've been developing the technology. We licensed the technology out to a third party who are building the commercial probes. We have also engaged with data scientists from Texas A&M and from ASU, and they're developing a soil health platform, a contextual platform that we will be using in conjunction with this probe. And this platform, we've been taking thousands and thousands of core data points, so no model data points, core data points over 1950 to 2020. And the scientists have been incorporating that into a data platform in order to get attainable levels of carbon and baseline levels of carbon for all soil across the United States. We're looking to do it across the globe, across the world. Right now, we have outlined, we partnered with a group in Europe who had the most extensive farm boundaries we felt in the world. And we partnered with them in order to get farm boundaries across the world. So we now have outlined all of the United States, the continental United States, all of Europe, UK, Switzerland, Norway. So we can actually give a farmer what's attainable on that field, or a landowner, or any kind of land, even alternative lands. We can actually give what's attainable in terms of carbon. And with the technology that we have, you can then see the delta. So you can actually see in real time the readings of the carbon levels. And as we input more information, for example, as we input what the crop is used, kind of rotation, whatever, all the information, agronomic information, as we work with agronomy companies to do this, you will actually be able to see more and more information going across this platform. We have launched this Attain platform, which is the attainable levels of carbon and the baseline levels of carbon, as well as the baseline levels of water retention capacity for all the places I've named. We're working on Africa and almost finished right now. So we're continuing this work with these top soil data scientists from both Texas A&M and ASU. I can get into it more, but that gives you a broad assessment. We'll be launching 2 more platforms. This one is called Attain. The next one is SiftTrace, which even if you don't have a probe, you can actually put in your core data in order to get that delta I spoke to. And the final platform will be SiftRisk, which will then also give risk levels of land in terms of carbon and water in all the places that we're developing the technology and the platform.
Yeah, definitely. That's some really interesting work that you're doing.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I got it. And it's really interesting. I have been interviewing a few people from the soil health industry, and I really understand and appreciate the work that you're doing. And just for the reference of our audience, can you also explain the significance of real-time soil data for farmers and how it fundamentally changes or it affects their ability to make informed decisions for crop management, and how exactly they can make use of that data and translate that into something
Of course.
that increases their yield some way or the other?
Of course. And to be clear, and I'll speak to this maybe first. For farmers in different parts of the world, they're facing different challenges. So in LATAM, for example, in Latin America and Central and South America, for example, they don't have the access to soil labs that we have here in the US. Therefore, that's why, in essence, we started with outlining that for this platform, we focused on the US first because there were so many data points that we could pull from, historical data points. So for farmers in other parts of the world, and largely in the global South, where they haven't had access to this information, having a scalable probe, because the whole point of what we're developing is technology that can be scaled and is an inexpensive way. So even in places where a probe, even an inexpensive probe, is still very expensive in other parts of the world, there are so many government programs, foundational programs, philanthropic programs that are working with farmers right now. So the idea is that it can be scaled anywhere in partnership with groups on the ground. And what this does is and I'll give an example when I was speaking to farmers in Colombia, and they were saying to me, wait a minute, are you telling me I can have access to in real time to these soil health metrics and I can make decisions in real time? And I said, yes. And for them, it was mind blowing because they have not had that kind of access to soil health. And what it means is, in terms of carbon, for example, carbon goes up and down. If you piled on a bunch of organic matter, your carbon is going to go up rather quickly. And so there's highs and lows, there's dips and mountaintops in carbon levels in those deltas. And so if you go out and take a core soil sample today, and you take another core soil sample in a month or a year, you can't be assured that's going to be accurate in terms of what's really going on in the soil, because the soil is a living organism and it's always changing. And so your carbon levels are changing consistently. The same with nitrogen. And up until this time, for example, with your inputs, you don't really know what is going on in that soil in terms of nitrogen. We haven't had access to that kind of information in real time. For a farmer to know what's going on in their nitrogen levels in real time and how that influences how much money they need to spend in inputs or not spend any at all or if they're using a cover crop that is a nitrogen building cover crop, this kind of information is transformative for a farmer. And so that's really what we're trying to do is give that kind of information in real time so farmers can make in real time decisions that really, as we know, weather changes and crop prices and everything else, all this goes into the decision-making process for a farmer. And if they don't have in real time access to what's going on in the soil, which is consistently changing, it's very difficult for them to make decisions that can mean a tremendous amount on the backside, on what their yield is, on what their soil health going forward for the next 10 years is going to look like. Whether their soil, we've all seen the pictures of a farmer practices a certain way, and they have a massive downfall of flooding, of rain, if their soil can actually retain that water level in that hour or two that rain's coming down versus the farm next door that may be practicing a different type of farm management, and that water is going to just run off and then their topsoil runs off. These decisions are extremely important for a farmer. And I think outside of the profession, a lot of people don't understand how critical that information is.
Yeah, I think totally makes sense. Harriet, I do have a hard stop in 7 minutes though.
Oh, gosh, sorry.
So
Okay.
I do have 2 minutes. I actually have two questions to ask you.
And then there's one more
Continuation
thing
though.
I should say. Go ahead. Yeah.
Definitely. From a sustainability perspective and a point of view, what is the ROI for farmers who invest in regenerative practices? And I think you also have mentioned in your LinkedIn bio that you work in regenerative finance. So, are there any ways that farmers from the third world countries, maybe, and even in the USA, are there some programs that which they can get access to such technologies? Because farmers are usually skeptical about investing in technology that they don't know about,
100%.
something new.
Yeah.
We have experienced that firsthand with AgriERP. So are there any such programs that help farmers embrace such technologies?
Yeah.
And the other part of the question, sorry, I'm just
Oh, no, go ahead.
elongating the question. What role do you see AI playing in the soil health field? And maybe, for example, in the 5 to 10 years, next 10 years, where do you see soil health going with introduction of data analytics and AI and the ease of availability of these technologies?
Yeah.
She could answer both of these
Yeah.
questions.
I'll start in AI and I'll try to move as quickly as possible. The data teams that we've engaged with are utilizing AI. So I think AI has a very significant role in outlining for example, as I said, the data points, for example, in South and Central America, there's just not the data that can make as informed decisions as we have here in the US. So say, for example, utilizing AI and utilizing the platform that we've developed, because the more data points that go into that platform, the more informed historical decisions you can pretty much create historical data in a sense through AI. So I think AI is going to be really important, especially in the global south going forward, because I think that kind of information generated by AI can be used, therefore, to practice long-time soil regeneration in various countries. And so I think that's really important. I also think that we're going to see more and more usage of blockchain in the agriculture industry, because one of the things I see all the time in terms of the investment, I work with investors all the time in this industry, and every time in a conference I see it come up, there's not enough transparency with soil data. There's not enough. Now, farmers are collecting tremendous amounts of data. So there's a gap there. So what is that gap, that transparency gap? So our technology helps because we get in real time. If you move those data points that you're getting in real time, so core data points, onto a blockchain, there's full transparency. And I think that is then going to drive the investment practices that we need and everywhere in the world. Because if you're able to if a farmer in Colombia or in Ghana or anywhere else is able to put those data points and they're practicing regenerative practices and they're driving up their carbon and their soil, their water capacity, so on and so forth, if that goes on a blockchain, and that access, you can then get investor and government subsidies and everything else coming in because that data is immutable. It's on a blockchain. There are companies that are doing this already. They're building marketplaces for farmers with that blockchain transparency. And I really think that decentralized system is going to assist farming systems across the world, especially in the smaller family farms and so on and so forth, who haven't had the access on a larger level. Was there another question you had now? Sorry. I think the other question was about investment. I think that has primarily been the holdup on investment. It's interesting because we've been asking farmers to collect all this data, more and more data. I've met with farmers who have incredible data that have been practicing since 1960 out in Nebraska, regenerative practices. They have the data to illustrate. It's how to get that seen by an investor. And I think through AI, through decentralized systems, putting more of this information transparently on a system is going to drive a lot more investment practices. I also think the big thing that I'm focused on right now is that communication piece to the investor, because I think it's not on the farmer, it's on the consumer and it's on the investment community right now to drive that intersection in the food system. So that's why I also work a great deal within the food system and driving better food awareness on the consumer population, because right now they really don't know what to believe, where to go. And I think those intersections are what I'm concentrating on building right now.
Sounds good, Harriet. Thank you so much for your time. I think I did have a few more questions, but unfortunately, I have a meeting lined up just in 2 minutes. Obviously, I'll be looking forward to having this conversation once again with you.
Sure.
Maybe in the near future.
Absolutely. Love to share
I
more.
have a few artifacts and maybe a slide like explaining your product, because it's very aligned with what you are doing as well. We are also a lot focused on enabling farmers to access time information through ERP system. And we are also working with partners to include the soil health data to that solution so that they can have all the information within one consolidated system.
That sounds great. I work with very collaborative companies and initiatives, so happy to do that.
Yeah, so I'll send that over to you, and then
Okay.
you can have a look, and maybe we can have
Great.
over that later on as well.
Terrific.
So, okay.
All right.
Thank you so much, Harriet, for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.